I'm driving home from my VIP day, and I just started giggling because I'm like, apparently I'm supposed to share this message because this got brought up at family dinner last night, and I thought about it again on my drive, and I was like, okay, surely one person, that's always my goal, one person at a time, surely there's one person that needs to hear this. They may not want to hear it, but they need to hear it. And so the big $1 million question is, have you ever found yourself driving and your GPS tells you to go a different way than you anticipated? And you're really deciding, should I listen to the GPS or should I say F it and go the way that I know to go? This can also show up when you're building furniture. This can also show up when you are following like a recipe in the kitchen. And this is a really big like ADHD thing where ADHDers have a hard time normally, not always, but normally following directions. Like we want to just, do it our own way. Not because like we think, our way is always better. It's just like a brain thing. But I don't know about you, but anytime I do not listen to my GPS and then I'm stuck in bumper to bumper traffic, I'm like, oh, I should have listened. And then I learn and I listen to my GPS the next time. And that actually happened today where it was literally in real time rerouting me, and it had a button literally on my GPS that says, do you want it to reroute? But you had a certain amount of time to press yes or no, or it was just going to automatically reroute. And so I was like, I am not, getting stuck in traffic. It must know something that I don't know with my viewpoint, right? Being in the car, it's using data, it's using, other people that are on the direction, the GPS app. And so I let it reroute me. And it did add 5 extra minutes. And I am in a little bit of traffic now, but it's different traffic, and it's like rush hour. So this is kind of inevitable, but the GPS said there was like a big object on the road and it was like getting things backed up. And so the alternative route did add 5 extra minutes, but if I would have not listened to the GPS, who knows? I could have been stuck for an hour, right? And I already have to pee. That's not an option. And if I use my past experiences of not listening to my GPS, right? And be like, okay, know thyself, know past experiences, don't rinse and repeat things that you get frustrated about. So I bring all of this up because, like I said, it shows up when we're following recipes in the kitchen. It can show up when we're building furniture. Now, some people are to a T, they're going to follow the instructions, they're going to, trust the GPS, and that's awesome. But there is a bulk group of people that, even if it's not all three, building furniture, instructions, and GPS, it might be 1 or 2 of them where you're like, nope, I'm gonna do what I want to do. So anywho, I bring all of this up because if you do fall into I'm not always going to listen, I'm going to, add my own ingredients or not pay attention to the instructions and just do to build the furniture, I'm just going to do what I want. You can't be mad if you don't get the desired result. Literally, the blueprint was right there in front of you. How to make the brownies, how to make the cake, how to reroute and still get to your destination with as much, as stress-free as possible, right? To build the furniture so it actually, functions, and all of those things. And so I've caught myself mad that the brownies don't taste well. So I'm talking with you, not at you. I've been mad or annoyed or frustrated that the furniture doesn't look how it's supposed to, or sitting in traffic. And so there does become a point where we need to we get to take some responsibility because the blueprint was right there. And wouldn't you know it, 9 times out of 10, when I follow the instructions to make the brownies, they taste pretty good. Or when I follow the instructions to make the furniture, it works, right? there may be like a few errors that I have to fix, but maybe I didn't interpret the instructions correctly, or the GPS reroutes me and it still adds, 5 extra minutes, but that's not so bad in the grand scheme of things. So, all this to say is, when you are enrolling support, whether that be a mentor or a team member, or you're watching a course, reading a book, and you don't take the blueprint, right? You don't take the recipe and you don't implement the recipe, and then you're still frustrated with your current reality, you got to take some responsibility, right? And equally, humor yourself, right? What do you have to lose by, maybe the mentor has a different perspective that you're not aware of because you're in the car and the mentor is like zoomed out and they're the GPS and they're using all of their data to give you the best sound advice. The mentor wants you to win. You are their responsibility in a lot of ways. And also, you're a success story. They want to do good, right? They want to serve and support you. They win when you win. And so they're not blowing smoke up your butt. They're not wasting your time or their time by telling you, hey, I really think you would benefit from mini launching, right? Like doing a mini launch, creating content, creating offers, right? You don't love that you're broke right now? Okay, here's a recipe. Or you want to make more money? Here's a recipe. And so there's still, some playing with the ingredients or some patience involved. But can you imagine if I was trying to get from my VIP day to home without a GPS? One, I would have so much anxiety. Two, I can guarantee you I would not be getting home in a timely manner. And I actually had that moment when I was leaving the VIP day because my GPS wasn't working, and I was like, it says that I have full bars, like, why is this not working? And I was like, am I going to have to figure this out? And I'm like, so there's a tool, a resource, right, a support system right there. And I had a moment where I was just like, don't let me down, GPS, don't let me down. I want to get to my family. I want to go, get in comfortable clothes and relax and, get in the hot tub and all the things. Like, I have a whole vision for how I want tonight to go. And so it finally worked, and I was like, oh, thank God. So I really wanted to bring this up because as a family, we talked about this last night because Emma and I were making a cake, and she was like, let's put all the ingredients together. And I was like, hold on, let's read the instructions. And Jared, my husband, started laughing because I have a track record of not doing that. And so he started laughing, and he was like, yeah, I'm always going to use, he's much different than me. He's like, yeah, I'm always going to use the instructions because they're there for me to be successful. And I was like, I understand that, right? Like, so if you're stubborn like me and you find yourself not doing that, it could also still be showing up in more important ways, right? Like, if you're not following instructions with making a recipe or building furniture or GPS, not always, but sometimes that type of behavior can be showing up in your business and in your health and fitness, in your relationships. Like, people want you to win. The universe wants you to win. It's giving you the tips, the tricks, the resources, the software, right? Like, we live in such a day and age where there's never been a better time for a busy mom to make money. Like, social media is a huge, huge privilege that we have at our fingertips. We get to use it to our advantage. There's mentors like myself that have put in the time, perfected a framework, that have experience of what to do and most importantly, what not to do. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my challenges, or not, right? And so you get to decide, are you going to follow a recipe? Are you going to follow the instructions, or are you going to ignore the GPS and say, I know how to get home. I'm not going to pay attention to the GPS. Surely the GPS doesn't know anything. And you may not be wording it that way, but like, notice your behavior in a mentor relationship specifically. Like, you get on a call or Telegram, or in person, right? And you're like doing all the things and you're like, this feels really good. I've got this, right? And then you just like throw it all out the window and you you don't listen to the ingredients, right? You don't listen to the recipe. You don't follow the recipe. And then you're mad, and then you come back to the GPS, or you come back to the mentor, and you're like, nothing's working, right? And so the more you can pay attention to your behavior, you can change your behavior. No matter what it is, whether it's this or something else, you hold all the power. You are creating your reality in real time. Even if you're choosing not to create it, you're creating it, right? Like, the same is true about manifesting. Everyone's manifesting every single day. You just may not be intentionally manifesting. So, like, for example, I have a vision of how I'm manifesting my evening. Manifesting doesn't mean you get exactly what you want. There is some intention, there is some alignment, there is some, like, strategy involved, and also flexibility of, like, you know, my kids may take a little bit longer to get to bed, so that may prolong, like, my vision for how I want this evening to go. But at least setting myself up for as much success as I can be really, really helpful to give it a better shot to happen. So I just want you to think about that and reflect and be super honest with yourself of, like, do you have some room for improvement of you're paying for advice, whether it's a book, a course, one-on-one, group, you're paying for advice. How much are you following the recipe? How many times are you asking, hey, can you clarify this part of the recipe, right? Like, I want to know more. I want to follow it to a T. And then you add your icing and your sprinkles. Those are the extras. That's like the customization. But in order to add the icing and add the sprinkles to the cake, you've got to follow the recipe of the cake. I have forgotten vegetable oil in a cake. And if you've done that, it tastes off. Or I've put canola oil in it instead of vegetable oil, and it tastes off, right? And so there is some, like, tweaking and modifying and taste testing, if you will, but follow the recipe. It's there for a reason. Whether it's me as your mentor or somebody else, use it to your advantage. They want to help you. They want to see you win. But at the end of the day, like, you following the recipe is your responsibility, right? Like, if you think of Betty Crocker's job is to put out the best brownies, right? All the options. You go down the aisle, you pick the brownies that you want, you buy them. That's their job. Their job is to present you the best brownies, give you the ingredients, like, obviously outside of, like, the egg and the oil and the water, but, like, give you the ingredients, tell you how to put everything together, and give you extras like the icing and the sprinkles even sometimes. But your job is to put it together. That box of brownies could sit in the pantry for a year, 2 years. It expires, then you got to throw it out. That's not Betty Crocker's fault. It's your responsibility. And so just the more and more I take extreme responsibility, extreme ownership of creating and manifesting the reality that I truly, deeply desire and deserve, and I know that I'm capable of it. Like, I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, I know what I'm capable of, and I owe it to myself to match that capability with the proper actions needed to make that happen. So open up the box of brownies, follow the recipe. If you need a recipe, I've got you. If you need support, I've got you. But take a moment to reflect and really understand that the recipe and recipes are out there waiting for you. And sometimes we get in our own way, but we can easily, quickly get out of our own way if we choose to. So I am really excited for you because so much can happen so quickly when you really take that extreme responsibility, and don't shame yourself in the process. Like, that's why we were, like, giggling as a family last night, and I loved that it, like, showed back up for me today with the GPS, because I was like, oh, I don't want to reroute, but I've been bitten in the butt before, right? Like, it's like, okay, Waze knows best. Go ahead and pay attention. Listen. And so I just urge you and encourage you to listen to your mentor. Not as your boss, but they're giving you advice for a reason. They're guiding you. They're supporting you. They want to see you win. But if you're getting in the way, or if you're not implementing what they're saying, like, hey, go do this, or try this, or come back to me, right? Like, you get to do your part for this partnership to work. And when you do, magic. Magic, magic, magic. And equally, there may be a reason subconsciously that you're not implementing the things. Like, you logically desire to implement, right? You have the best intentions, and sometimes we band-aid that with like, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, or like, you know, I'm waiting on this, that, the other, which there can be truth in everything, obviously. Like, I always think that there's truth in, you know, excuses and limiting beliefs, and there's something there, right? There's truth and meaning in things, but I think we take that at face value, and then we don't push back. And I encourage you to push back on your excuses, push back on the stories that you're telling yourself, because you may just not feel safe yet around implementing those things. And that's another thing that you can come to your mentor with and say, hey, I'm calling myself forward. You've given me great advice. I keep saying I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, and there must be a reason why. And this is not directed towards anyone, but this is just like intuitively showing up for me. I will always be patient with who I work with. I will never force you to do anything. I'll never beg you to do anything. That's not my job. And equally, I can actually do more harm than good. And so I never ever force anything. That's been a big, important piece for me. But like, you getting curious with like, I keep getting this great advice, I keep getting excited, but then something happens. Like, you get in your own head, and then you mask it with, oh, I'm busy, I have too many clients, my kids are, you know, doing this, that, the other. Again, there is truth in excuses. But equally, if Taylor Swift gave you free concert tickets for this weekend, you would figure it out. You would find the way to get there. So the why has to be stronger than the excuses for you to persevere through the messy middle. And so when you can have that driving force, you can really break through a lot of limiting beliefs really quickly, a lot of self-sabotage really quickly. And once your brain knows that you're safe, it will start to regulate itself. It's kind of like if you've ever walked into your home and it's really freezing and it needs to be warm, it takes a little bit of time, but then eventually it's warm and you're like, oh, thank God. And then it stays warm, right? As long as you don't like open up a bunch of doors and windows and you keep the temperature at what it is. So like, you regulating towards your next level, your wealthiest life, is very, very similar. So there is, I call it the messy middle. And so if you find yourself not implementing and creating the real-time progress that you're wanting, and we're masking it with excuses, get super curious. Go to your mentor. Say, like, I need to work through this. Like, you're giving me great advice and strategy and support, and I'm not implementing, I'm not following through, and there's a reason why. And not only do I want to get to the bottom of it, because I don't think you always need to like know all of the answers, but working through it, right? You may not get to all of the answers, but you unpacking and discovering like there is a block there, and then working through it and creating a way to have a different habit, right? Like, I kept making excuses for not getting walks in or runs in, and it was a block. And so, you know, again, there's truth in like, yeah, my kids take up a lot of my time. I want to walk at a certain time or run at a certain time. And then I just realized, like, I just need to meet myself where I'm at, and I just need to make it happen. And so I worked through that block so quickly with not necessarily like trying to figure out the reason why, but more so, I don't want this result, so therefore I'm going to work on creating a different reality for myself. So you can work on unpacking the why of like, why am I doing this? And equally, I think, you know, the why will reveal itself in real time, but you can't force that to happen. And really the best thing that I know to do is start to shift into a different way of being and regulating around that, and then your brain will start to get on board, and then it will feel so much easier for that to be your reality, right? Like at one point, I'm sure a certain amount of money felt scary to spend, whether it was $100, $500, $1,000. Like even yesterday, I had a consultation for some dental work that I need done. And, oh shoot, I'm in the wrong lane. They gave me a quote and they're like, insurance will cover about like 80% of it. But it's probably still going to be about like $500. And I remember just standing there being like, oh, okay. Like we can handle that. And college me would have been like, oh, that's my rent for a month. Like how the heck I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How am I going to make that happen? Right? So you, just like that, you regulate around different levels of money, wealth and health and happiness and being more comfortable with who you are, like anything that you desire. It takes some regulation, which there is that messy middle. And really that's where a mentor can be so incredibly valuable, to hold you, be with you in the messy middle. Like how I felt giving birth for the first time was extremely different than the second time. I knew more of what to expect. I knew what questions to ask. I knew how to speak up for myself. I trusted myself more. I knew what, medications I wanted and didn't want. And so that came with time, right? And so a mentor is so valuable for the messy middle and even after, but I think the juiciness and the most value can come when they can be with you in the messy middle, because they also can be accountability for you, because it can be so incredibly easy to give up in the messy middle. And unfortunately, I see so many people give up in the messy middle, and it makes my heart so sad, because the messy middle doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be exhausting. But like, it's kind of like the awkward years of like middle school, like when you got the zits and you're like in braces and like, but then those things start to lift, and then you start to feel better. Do you love all of my examples? So it could just be really helpful to have that like support system and that love and that reassurance of like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You've got this, right? Follow the framework, follow the recipe, follow the instructions. I'm here for you. I love you, right? Like it's the vibes and the strategy, and that's what I'm going for. So if you need a mentor, I'm here and I love you, and you do have this. Like you absolutely can and will make anything happen that you put your mind to. And just know that it will be messy and it won't be perfect, and that's like the exciting part about it.